I'm so glad all of you are here. My name is Clay Eels. I'm the Executive Director of the Southwest Seattle Historical Society. And we are so pleased to be here tonight. We have a brief program for you of 4 speakers I know you will love to hear. This will be a very brief program though, because the purpose of this event is for you to have time, one night only, to be able to interact with other people and to observe and to really reflect upon what is the meaning that we all can see in the bags that are before us here. Of course, many of you know the story of this, but I'll just let you know very quickly. The bags that are behind us and the bags that are out in the bins are all of the paper sacks that were the containers for the luminaries that people left along Alki Beach 12 years ago this week. And the reason for this is that the Statue of Liberty replica, which is just 2 blocks down the way, was one of the places in Seattle that people gathered on the night of and in the days after 9/11. Of course, the New York City symbolism was a big factor there. And we have one of our speakers tonight who will be able to tell you more about how it just grew as a grassroots effort of expression of emotion all up and down the promenade at night when it was all lit up. As far as the eye could see, it was one of the most beautiful sights ever. It's very appropriate, and we're quite appreciative of the opportunity for the Historical Society, the Southwest Seattle Historical Society, to put this event on. Because, of course, this is all about preservation of history. And it's history that is in our lifetimes. History is not just from 100 years ago, like we like to think. History is in our lifetimes. And it is not just about preserving history, it is about making history. Every one of you who are here tonight is making history. Just imagine the people we don't know 50 or 100 years from now, who we don't know, and after we're all gone, we'll be wanting to know what you and I are doing tonight. We are making history here tonight. And the other aspect of this that fits right in with the Historical Society is that we are building community tonight. And we are expressing gratitude for community. And in that spirit, I would like us all to take just a few moments of silence so that we can listen to the heartbeat of our community. Thank you for that, and I am really honored to introduce 4 speakers tonight. Before I do, in the same spirit, I want to express gratitude for all who made this event possible. First and foremost, I would like you to understand that we would not be here without the generosity and deep, deep heart of Diane Venti of Alki Arts. I also want to recognize the volunteers who put this display together and put the work together to prepare for today. Could you please raise your hands, and others of you, please give them some recognition. It's important to recognize the people who actually made the messages on these paper sacks. Some of you who are here did this, and perhaps you will find your bag here tonight up on the wall or in the bins outside. And we also need to recognize he's going to say it really wasn't him, but it really was. If he wasn't aware of it, it was deep within his heart, the vision of the man who came out to the Statue of Liberty replica the morning after 9/11, set up a card table, brought out paper bags, brought out marking pens, brought out tea lights and got the whole ball rolling so that we all as a community could express our emotions 12 years ago, and so that we could all experience this tonight. And this is our first speaker. Would you please welcome Dean Kepler.
Hello. First, let me thank Clay and the staff of the Log House Museum and Alki Arts for all of their hard work and dedication in bringing this exhibit together. Thank you very much. Because you guys pretty much know the story, I don't want to say too much about it. I just want to say a few things now about the bags and the time that I was allowed to spend on Alki Beach back then. I am just as humbled to be standing here today as I was during the week 12 years ago. The need for these bags was a spontaneous and organic experience that came from people needing to visit our own Statue of Liberty here in Seattle. During those long days and nights, many people arrived here on Alki Point not knowing what they would actually find. They just felt themselves drawn here. Some had no interest in writing on a bag at all. Some were speechless and could not find any words. They would just take a bag and a pen silently and walk to the bulkhead and take time to draw on it. Many others thanked me for letting them feel that they had actually been able to do something once they had arrived here at the statue. That was my only purpose in offering of these bags and drawing materials, was to let people approach the table at whatever point they were in as they processed the attacks of 9/11. For those that needed to speak, I listened. For those that needed to cry, I would hold them. As our community and our country was finding itself doing randomly everywhere, reaching out to each other, a stranger, a family member, a friend. And for every person I encountered that week, I was humbled and grateful to be in a place where they might actually be able to benefit from my presence. The true honor here and the lessons to be learned, I would hope, are still from the messages on the bags themselves. They are our permanent witness to this moment in all of our shared history. I am so grateful today that the bags have yet another chance to let us make us feel something all over again. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so very much, Dean. Our next speaker was to have been Kathy Lambert, King County Council member, who was very interested in this gathering of materials. She had a last-minute conflict, but from her office we have Ross Marzoff. Would you please welcome Ross?
Thank you. This statement is from Councilmember Kathy Lambert. I'm very sorry I could not attend tonight, but I wanted to share my thoughts with you. 9/11 was a powerful event in our country's history. It changed all of our lives and gave us a new perspective. At the time, I was very moved by the outpouring of patriotism and care for one another. I'm also very moved by this display organized by the Southwest Seattle Historical Society. The hundreds of bags represent all of us, and the many poignant messages written on them will be a lasting witness to the goodness of our citizens and to their grief. Because of 9/11, we began to look at ways that we could protect our communities better. The people in my district in Eastern King County were the first to form a citizen emergency response team, and because of this we received an award from the White House acknowledging our efforts. Now we have people trained to help each other in times of need. The work of the CERT teams and each mission they do in the community is evidence of their patriotism, care for their neighbors, and love of country. I recently attended a drill of one of the local CERT teams and was impressed by their commitment to serve. Our area also took the lead in a Children to Children project led by Diane Brudnicki, former Duval City Council member. The children of the Snoqualmie Valley did art projects and sent these projects to the children of 9/11. This was such a practical way of showing an outpouring of love from our children to those impacted by 9/11. It's wonderful to be part of a community that shows love in such marvelous ways. Our gathering together tonight is a way to continue the healing that these bags help facilitate. It is also part of the process by which we remember the events of 9/11. It is essential that we do both of these as a lasting memorial to those who lost their lives that day. Thank you.
Thank you, Ross. And as you all know, even though county council members represent districts, they also represent the county as a whole. And we're talking about community in various levels here. And our next speaker is really a representative of the community of the full city of Seattle. And would you please welcome West Seattle's own Seattle City Council member, Tom Rasmussen.
Thanks very much, Clay. I really appreciate you organizing this. We all do remember 9/11 and how helpless we felt that day and how we wanted to express our grief and our support for the victims and our support for our country. Many people, as Clay and others have said, spontaneously gathered at our symbol of America and all it stands for, our replica of the Statue of Liberty. And it's appropriate because it connects us with our history and it connects us with our country and our values. Unfortunately, since that day, our country has been in constant conflict and at war. And what I would hope is that we will work successfully so that 12 years from now, the justice and the peace that we stand for and that we work for will be here. I want to thank again Dean Kepler for his very thoughtful work. I hope that all of you take a moment to read the very sensitive statements, the expression of emotions. The common theme is love and justice and patriotism. Sometimes not often expressed in our country, but that was expressed so fully during that day and during those weeks that followed. Thank you also to the Southwest Seattle Historical Society for helping us to record and remember our history. You're a very important part of our community, and we salute you.
Our final speaker is another West Seattle native. Without further ado, would you please welcome Dow Constantine, our King County Executive.
Thank you, Clay. This was a shared experience that we never wanted to share. It was, in fact, a shared experience that we never thought or before that day could have imagined that we would share. My memories of September 11th, 2001 are really more emotional than factual. The surreality, the disbelief, the search for some kind of sense or meaning in what was unfolding. Like everyone else, of course, I was glued to the television as I watched the tragedy unfold. It's difficult, even today, to really comprehend the scale of destruction or the tragedy of the loss of life that occurred that day. As we see in the Alki Luminaria today, for the first time in a dozen years, it strikes me that the most vivid memories are likewise people's reactions to what we were seeing that day. The flag hanging from a balcony, a handwritten sign mourning those who were lost. These luminaria, a sense of unity as Americans, a kind of unity that we had not felt perhaps since before Vietnam, perhaps even since the Second World War. Our reactions to 9/11 allowed us to express our solidarity and our togetherness as Americans and as members of the extended human family, and you can see that reflected in the writings of adults and kids on these bags. As you look, you can just glance across and see that many of them are about patriotism. They're about country, nation, but many more are about faith. And I find the most touching are about that struggle to find meaning in what had happened, about the basic humanity of that day. Our hope for the future of our country and our people was expressed in the wake of 9/11, and our determination was set that this would not happen again. And of course, some anger was part of the mix. This disaster was not natural, it was man-made. But most of all, we had a shared determination that extremism would not be allowed to prevail. This country was founded on the notion of moderation. Our institutions call us to compromise with one another so that we can govern ourselves. And we realized at that time that moderation and understanding and tolerance and cooperation must guide our actions, not hate or vengeance. And those who reminded us of our history helped us through that time. They reminded us of the history of the Second World War, and that we should not repeat the mistakes we made after Pearl Harbor. The Japanese American Citizens League, for example, gave voice to those many Japanese American families who were persecuted by their own government because they looked like the enemy, because their ancestors had come from the country that attacked us. American Muslims, Arab Americans, many groups faced the threat of similar persecution. And although there were ugly incidents, it is a tribute to this community and to people across this country that they had learned from our history and that they stood up and said, no, this is not about differences in our religions or our ethnicities. This is about extremism and hatred and a warped ideology. The memories are much like these luminaria, and we will examine as you get a chance to walk through. It's as if we took those memories and put them in these bags and then unsealed them today so we could be reminded of our state of mind that day, of what we're thinking and feeling. I want to thank you for joining us today to remember and reflect, and having the courage to look back and the compassion to consider how the experience of 9/11 changed us all forever. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Dow, and Tom, and Ross, and Dean. And the final part of the program is you, because the most of the time that we were planning for this occasion was to have time for you to come and take a look at the bags and talk with each other. We have refreshments over at the front desk that you can enjoy as well. But just enjoy gathering together for common purpose and reflection. These paper sacks have such a variety of ages, of languages, and certainly of messages. And we want you to have time to be able to take that all in. Thank you all very much for coming tonight.